This video might be a year late, honestly. uh, but I can't sit here as someone who has done this before and not say something about this. Um, so, Blue Ridge. Yeah, Blue Ridge. The old Blue Ridge Rock Festival took place a week ago. Was supposed to have taken place a week ago, but as some of you have probably already seen, it's turned into the world's biggest crap show. It has turned into an absolute disaster. And I am thanking my lucky stars that I didn't go again this year. But I want to speak for a minute about this year's festival based on my experience last year, which honestly, last year there were a lot of the same issues. We didn't have to deal with severe weather. Thankfully, we didn't have to deal with any of that last year. It rained a little bit, but it wasn't awful. It was just like the little drizzle thing, and of course the front man from Nonpoint is going to take all the credit for driving the rain away because he had everybody hold their hands up in the air, and but festivals, you gotta love it. But anyway, so I just wanted to talk for a minute from my perspective on what happened this year versus what happened last year, and just some of the stuff that obviously did not change. Thing number one I want to talk about is the wait for shuttles. This year, people said it was even more of a nightmare than last year. Last year was terrible. I stayed in Durham last year. Stayed in Durham, North Carolina. That's where my hotel was, and drove north every day. It was about an hour drive to the festival grounds every day. Got to the parking lot and you parked, and it was in like a grassy field. Best way I could describe it, it was like what I used to park when I would go to NASCAR races with my family when I was growing up. We would park in like these dirt roads or these grassy fields because it's just close enough to where it wouldn't be a logistical nightmare for the racetrack. And so we parked in the grassy fields at Blue Ridge, and it was parking the car was easy enough. They were actually quite organized when it came to lining everybody up, putting everybody in rows, spaced far enough apart so that we weren't smacking into each other, which, considering the organizational competency of whoever's running this thing, is a minor miracle. I'm just going to say it seems to be a minor miracle. But at the same time, it was a long way from the venue, and so we had to ride the shuttle buses. Now, last year, the shuttle buses were kind of included with the ticket. We just went and got on the shuttles. I'll get to how that worked in a second. But this year, I have read some comments that have said that it was about $45 to $50 a pop for shuttle tickets. I mean, seriously, that is pushing the limits of ridiculous. I mean, that's up there. That is up there. And just the fact that you're not willing to include that in your overall ticket price is mind-boggling to me. It's nuts. And this year people said that it was just a horror show waiting in line for shuttles. And what's crazy is this was the main problem from last year's festival. It wasn't the weather. It wasn't this or that or the other thing. The thing I saw the most complaints about online about last year's festival was just the lack of shuttles. And it's true. It's true. I got to the venue, or the parking lot, I should say. I got to the parking lot a couple hours before the first bands were supposed to go on. And I had a list on my phone. I was very excited about seeing different bands, and I just wanted to take video and merge it all into a collage and put it out for you guys. And I got to do that still, and it's probably my most successful videos to date. But at the same time, there were other bands that were supposed to be in those video collages that They just didn't make it in because I didn't get on a shuttle until well after the festival. So just to put it in perspective, my Thursday highlight video starts with the band Red, one of my all-time favorite Christian artists. They started playing on what was ostensibly the third stage. There were 5 stages last year, and they were playing on the third one. And so we got there at 3. That's what they had started to play already. I caught about half their set. I got in the line for the shuttles at, I think, 10. Yeah. 10 o'clock. And I got there to hear the back half of Red, who had started playing at 3 or so. So that just shows you the wait for shuttles. It was insane. It was a nightmare. And then you got in there to find another problem, which plagued the festival this year, which apparently was even worse than last year, was the trash situation. Throughout the day, I think there were 5 or 6 little pop-up cardboard trash receptacles for the entire festival of 40 to 50,000 people. So, yeah, 5 or 6. I mean, what do you say to that? What do you say to that? You know, in an age where we're trying to be so conscious about wasting product and stuff, it's nuts. It's absolutely crazy that they couldn't do that. And they weren't coming to pick it up either. So those pictures that you see online from this year of those humongous trash piles, yeah, I can attest that was a thing last year. It was awful. It was really bad. And then you got in there and you realized that the $375 you paid to get into the festival for 4 days was not indicative of the full amount that you would pay. Now, obviously, you're going to pay more for hotel and stuff like that. I get that. But you get in there and the food was outrageous. I mean, they pull private vendors in to work this festival, but there had to be something done. I don't know if it was the same this year. It probably was. Just the amount of complaints about just the overall experience of this year's festival makes me think that last year's festival, a lot of the same stuff happened. And I would say that the food prices were probably one of them. And I remember, I think I paid $10 to $11 for a thing of mac and cheese. Yeah, macaroni and cheese for $10 to $11. It's that yeah, that was nuts. It was absolutely insane, and just some of the stuff was so out there and beyond reproach. It was just nuts. That's the only way I can think of to describe it. So first day, go through there, see a ton of great bands. Musically, the festival is top notch. I mean, the lineups are like some of the best festivals over in Europe. I'm thinking Download, I'm thinking Wacken, I'm thinking, Hellfest, stuff like that. You get bands from the huge names like Shinedown and Pantera all the way down to some of the great underground artists that are making so much noise right now. It's really cool to have that much amazing music in one environment. If you could clean up the environment, it would be wonderful. But alas, I don't think these guys can put their pants on right, let alone, run a festival properly. I mean, it's crazy. And so anyway, day one, got through there, saw a ton of incredible groups. My first deathcore show was Brand of Sacrifice there. Saw Whitechapel on Friday when they were there, and it was my second time seeing Whitechapel live, and they've really grown on me, becoming probably my favorite deathcore group outside of maybe Impending Doom. I'd say Impending Doom and Whitechapel are my 2 favorite deathcore groups. So I really enjoyed all of that. The problem will again lay in the transport back to my car, because I wanted to see Ghost Thursday night, and they weren't on until like 10:30, which is way too late for a festival headliner. I again, I know the way they do things over in Europe where they go until like 3 a.m, but no. 10:30 is way too late for a festival headliner, in my opinion. And so I only got to see Ghost play one song. I saw them play Kazarian, and that was it. And then I had to leave because I knew that the wait for the shuttle was going to be horrendous, and it was. And then I had an hour drive back to Durham. And I got back to Durham at like 1:30 in the morning. So, and it was basically rinse and repeat over the following 3 days. I wound up leaving early just because the festival atmosphere was so pungent and potent with this acrid stench of incompetence. Yeah. And just from the stuff that I've seen online from this year's festival, I can imagine that last year was basically a cakewalk compared to what this year's was. Again, we weren't dealing with severe weather. Now that's something they can't control, obviously. And the safety of people has to be tantamount. It's got to be number one priority, is the safety of all the festival goers, And so canceling because of that makes sense. What doesn't make sense is the idea that you're not paying anyone. Apparently, none of the stagehands got paid. I'm seeing things about how they walked out. They were going on strike. It was horrible. I mean, just go watch Tank the Tech's video on it if you want more context on how the bands were treated and how the stagehands and the backstage staff and even the stage managers were being treated, because apparently this was just the biggest pile of disorganization ever. It apparently it was, the stories, they just make me cringe. I feel terrible for the people who went, the fans who went. I feel terrible for the stagehands who are trying to work and get paid and do a job. I feel horrible for all those people. I feel terrible for the bands. I heard that Slipknot had to order catering for people because there was just nothing. And then, obviously, the fan experience was awful, even worse than that. So, people are calling this Fyre Fest for rock and metal fans, and on a level, I agree with that. Somebody online did make the point that bands actually played at this festival, which makes it slightly better than Fyre Fest, but, everything else was just terrible. And I can only hope that there are two roads that they can go down now. It's either you come back next year with a brand new operations staff, with maybe a brand new promoter, and you do what's right and you make it up to the fans. You slash prices. You just cut prices. You slash prices. Making money is no longer an option in your head because you want to make it up to the fans. It just, charge enough to where you can pay the bands to come and cover expenses and whatnot. But turning the biggest profit possible is no longer an option at all. None. Or you just go away and you don't ever come back. You don't, because this is what we call unacceptable customer service, and that's an understatement. I recognize the complete understated nature of that remark. It is unacceptable customer service. And I've seen what good customer service is. I have been to places with good customer service. I have received good customer service. This wasn't it. This was far beyond good customer. This was far beyond trying to give bad customer service. I mean, this took effort. That's what's sad. This took effort. Everyone wanted to come together and enjoy a wonderful time of just getting to see their favorite bands and music and whatnot. And it took effort for things to be this terrible. It took a concerted effort for things to be this terrible. I don't know what to say. As an attendee of last year's festival, I'm glad I didn't go again this year. I am so glad I did not go again this year. So, if you want more, like I said, Tank the Tech has a great video up. Go watch it. For those of you who don't know, he was Electric Callboy's tour manager over their last North American tour, and he was there. He was behind the scenes, and he talks about just how much of an organizational snotfest this was. And, I don't foresee it coming back. I really don't. I just don't.